to build your empire. I'm so excited to be kicking into gear today with James Wellington. We have some funny stories about how our paths crossed, and we will share them with you today. But we're going to be really going over what it looks like to have those shifts in mindset when it comes to money and what you want your future to look like. And James is a perfect person to get on for this call. So thank you so much for joining us, James. I know you're tuning in from Gold Coast, which usually you're in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, I am. Thanks so much for having me, Mel. It's good to be here.
Problem. So I want to know a little bit about you. So what was it like for you? Tell us, who is James? For someone who doesn't know who James Wellington is, who is James growing up? What did life look like?
Easy. I think the easiest way to describe that would be obviously going back to 14, because that's probably the most impactful time in my life. I think you know this story a little bit, so I'll share for everyone. Up until the age of 14, you know, life was pretty regular, pretty much just a normal kid going about his day. Mum passed away of breast cancer from breast cancer at 14. So it was sort of that, you know, flipping point moment. Sorry for anyone that listens to this, just drop an absolute bombshell in 1 minute, but it's just the easiest way to describe it, you know. So I think up until 14, pretty regular. Then losing mum just went into this downward spiral of just being in my shell, believing that life was going to be always happening to me, you know. So I think, yeah, that was pretty much the main part of it. But then obviously coming out of that, you know, would have been about 25, 26, coming into those sort of mid-20s, just making that decision, you know, to shift, which we can go into later. But, you know, I'll give a bit more of an insight into that shift, especially because it was just, for anyone that listens to this, you know, it's a hardship up until, you know, I guess you finally think different, which I'll get Mel to obviously intro into that one, but I can explain that to you guys in more detail as well, which would be good.
Yeah, wow. And look, obviously that would have been so testing at that age, you know, to go through such a loss. And I guess, did that throw you off the wagon? Like, did that spiral into the drinking, the partying, you know,
100%.
The typical stories that we hear?
Yeah, so I think from 14 to 18, you know, school was obviously the catalyst to keep me in line per se. Was relatively like into my rugby, so I wanted to play sport. I always wanted to be a professional athlete. So sort of going into that, I went over to the UK at 21, and that's when I first discovered, I guess, 22. Went over UK at 22, and that's when I first discovered, you know, like a different life. I was over there away from family, had no real friends apart from my rugby team, got into the drug culture with like cocaine, ecstasy, all that sort of stuff. And then, yeah, it would have been the better part of, you know, 3 to 4 years of just trying to escape, I guess, that reality of like being in my mind, an orphan, you know. Like my dad and I guess met when I was 12, just before mum died. So it was a pretty difficult one, you know. So dad was actually a former professional rugby league and rugby union player. So I was trying to be like my dad, and absolutely love him for everything he's done, you know. But when you're young, you're like, you lose your mum and you're wanting this like soft touch, and then you get a dad that's an ex-rugby player and like very, very hard, and like his representation was, you're a man, don't cry. So that was my life, you know. And we all know those types, and I love him for it. It actually pulled me through it in hindsight. If I had a soft touch, I probably wouldn't have been here. But yeah, so definitely got in the wrong culture, and probably for about nearly 5 years was just destroying myself. Like I'm talking like 3-4 times a week, you know. It wasn't a good place. I was actually homeless for a little bit there in Canberra, which I can go into more detail around that. Mel's learning a lot of stuff very quickly right now. So yeah.
And look, I mean, I think this is why this podcast came about. You know, it's about sharing those stories of people that have built something from nothing and showing people over and over again that it's doable. You just have to want it, you know. You have to want to put that work in. So, you know, obviously your story, you know, people will be able to see that over the next little while, how it all pans out. So, okay, you're in the drug scene, you're ruining yourself, you know, a couple of times a week. We've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah.
I think mine only ended not long ago, if you look at how long I've been alive. But, you know, I think moving forward from there, what was that pain point for you where things had to change? I mean, why couldn't you just keep going the way that you were?
Sleep on his couch, and I was living in a warehouse and also in my car. for about nearly a month. And like I was living at a work warehouse, and my mate just sort of threw me a lifeline, and I was still on the drugs and stuff at this stage. And he basically pulled me aside like a couple of days before. He's like, stop doing it. And I obviously went out that next day. And then I had such a big night. I actually sat on a ledge, this is really deep, by the way, anyone listening to this. I sat on a ledge 17 stories up, and I was like, just lean forward, you got nothing to be here for. I remember just sitting there, and it was like, I always get goosebumps when I tell this, and a few people have heard it before. It's like, yeah, it must have been my mum's voice or something. It's like, you're destined for more. You're destined to be more. You promised me, sort of thing. And I just remember getting back from the ledge and like going back in the house, and like, this was about probably 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up the next morning. I rang my nan and I said, I'm moving to Newcastle. Like I'm getting out of here, and I got to be back closer to my family up where mum was born and like lived and stuff. Moved up there, and then just started reading books. My cousin gave me a book called Viktor Frankl, The Man's Search for Meaning. And there's a line, it's a really small book for anybody that wants to read it. And it basically says, to live is to suffer, to survive is to find meaning in the suffering. And so I just went on this hunt to, find meaning for the suffering. And like Viktor Frankl, for anyone that knows him, that listens to this, he was like basically in Auschwitz, like in the concentration camps. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck man, like you're a fucking little bitch. Like this was my internal dialogue. It's like, your mum died, like stop fucking being a sob story, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like you've got the whole life ahead of you. This guy's like finding meaning in suffering, living in fucking Auschwitz, like watched his family get killed, like all this brutal stuff, people dying all around him. And I'm sitting there fucking like wanting to destroy myself because my mum passed. Like I know it's a heaps harsh thing to say for anyone that listens to this, but it's just the truth. So that was the catalyst turning point, I guess, the big one, which obviously led me to start the personal development path, which was good.
Yeah. And isn't it funny, there's one thing, and I remember the exact moment for me, but there's one thing where you liken it to like the can gets opened with personal development. It's like somebody peels back the lid, and it's like one of those, you remember those things that used to be stuffed in the can, and you open the lid and it all pops out. Like that's literally what I liken the personal development world to be like, because once you open that lid, you're fucked. You can't go back. There's no going back. You can't unlearn or unsee, moving forward. So okay, so you've shifted, you've moved to New South back with your family. What did you do work-wise, back then? What was the next step for you?
So I was still in the odd job. So at that stage when I was in Canberra, I was doing demolition. Then I moved from demolition into just doing like part-time PT, but roofing as well. So I was doing like roofing, like sort of security guarding at night, like in the pubs there and stuff, like still around the scene, So I was away from my mates that I guess I was looking to be an outlet to, to being still in the same scene. Yeah. So it wasn't really ideal. So I started reading these books and stuff. And then funnily enough, like I signed up to a program that was like $20,000 like back in the day. So I've done it twice now, as you know, like I've done it twice, like spent a lot of money on my personal development and self-education. And it was an online program, and like basically I needed to get away from it. I had a feeling that like if everybody else is doing this, I need to do something else. So like, at this stage, I probably left this one out. I didn't have a license. I'd lost my license DUI for 5 years. Anyone that listening, don't drink and drive. Lost my license for 5 years. And then this course, I'd crashed my car driving unlicensed, and the lady from NRMA felt sorry for me and sort of pushed my thing through and gave me a payout. So I had about $6,000 in my account. Got a finance application because I was working like 3 jobs, and they got me a $20,000 loan, and I'm a young dude, like $45,000 in debt at this stage, like absolutely shitting bricks. Like I was about 26 at this stage. And then, I just, I got that sort of program, and then I ended up getting offered a job to move to Melbourne, which was from Newcastle to Melbourne. And I was so scared, but I got offered this job to go in this program and work for this company. So then, I did that. And then obviously, really got into the digital space, digital marketing. I just think it was the right place for me to be and go into, and I think for myself, it was just something that obviously, Mel, and anyone that watches Mel knows that she's into the digital space, and I just was learning as much as I could. So I guess association, assimilation of obviously people around you was the thing that really helped me to get out of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. You're most like the 5 people you hang out with, I remember hearing that and just going, Oh, wow. I wish I had known that, 10 years ago. But wow, our story's so similar. I think the amount that I dropped was 20 grand as well, for that first big thing that was going to change my life. And it really, really did. So, you moved into the digital marketing space. Obviously, I know what that feels like to have that little spark born inside you where you're like, this is the best. I could do this every day. What happened moving forward from there in the digital marketing space? I know that that's such a big area of your life now, and it, again, been extremely life-changing for you to learn those high-paying skills. What does that look like for you now?
So there was two.
I remember when we first met, right? Let's tell that. You tell this story about how this came about. I'm still like, damn it, he got me. but thank God, right? So you tell the story about, I guess, what was happening and how our paths crossed.
Yeah, so two parts to it. The first part was working for that company. I worked there for 18 months, just learning digital from a perspective of like online PT coaching.
Sure.
Jumped out of there. Bit of a cool one. Jumped out of there, and I knew what to do. I'd watched all these clients just not taking action. I was actually a coach. I was a performance coach. So I was taking these guys from like 0 to 6 figures, and I'm sitting there earning like 52 grand a year, but thought I was killing it because it was a full-time job. Yeah. And so I quit after 18 months and popped out, and then grew an online PT business from 0 to 1 million in sales rev. We had about 385 clients in literally, it would have taken me, sales revenue was about 8.5 months. So we grew it, basically had like a fuck ton of people just working with us. We were creating an app similar to that of Center, if anyone knows that Chris Hemsworth app. So we had all these online PTs, mindset coaches, and I was just like brought them all together. And yeah, so we were crushing it, and then a bit of a down one again. My business partner, and who was actually my best mate at the time, was killed in a motorbike accident in Bali. So I was over there, spiraled down again, started getting like, broke up with the girl I was seeing, moved into a share house with a mate, got back into a bit of drugs and stuff. And then the way Mel and I met, and this is where this is going to be a plug for the big red himself. So basically, Chris Duncan. So he was my mate that I used to work with at this other company. He'd been following Chris, and our old boss actually said to my mate Cruz, he's like, oh, there's this guy called Chris Duncan. He lost his business partner in Bali a few years ago. You guys will really resonate, because I was actually in Bali at the time when it happened. And me and Cruz were in Vietnam. We're on a holiday for Herbalife, because part of my old health and fitness business was Herbalife. Yeah. So we're on a free vacation, and we're sitting in a fucking a hotel room in Vietnam, hungover as 10 men. And like, Cruz is like, dude, I'm working with Chris. And he's like, you should do it. And I'm like, oh man, I've hardly got any money. I spent all my money. Like, I was just a young dude that was making money, so I was spending it. And then he's like, nah, I'm going to do it. So he put me in a group chat with Alexi, who's one of Chris's sales guys. And he just hammered me, and Chris then jumped in privately, and he's like, hey bro, when you and I chatting, I heard you're a big game player. So pretty much similar to what Mel and I, so I'll get into that. And then like, basically, he just said to me, he's like, dude, marketing, I want to business. I heard you talking a big game online. You got a few reckon a few 100,000 in the bank or some shit. He's like, show me the truth. It's that whole like fake it till you make it sort of thing on the front end. And Chris just called me out, and he goes, he felt into it. He's like, man, you're scared. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking real scared. So he called me in, and obviously got me in the digital marketing cert, put me through the certification. I was actually doing one-on-one with him to start with, which was about $5,000 a month. So yet again, just investing heavily into myself, super scared. So signed a 60 grand contract for 12 months. Basically after 3 months, Chris decided, he's like, I'm just teaching you digital marketing properly. Go back and do the cert, put me back in there. At this stage, I'd also grown a digital marketing agency from 0 to 30,000 a month, which was awesome. And then,
that was Chris, about when we met, I think.
That's about when we met. So what happened from there was, because I got into this certification, I crushed it. And basically Chris said, stop marketing to be a PT. Because anyone watching this, guys, like, the big thing to take away from this is that product and services are great, but the real skill set comes from automation and leverage. So even though I sold 385 people into, an online PT course and had like Herbalife attached to it, like, I was consistently having to lift up this wheelbarrow of like smaller sales. And valuable and actually be blind for anyone. Yes. So pretty much for me, can you hear me right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It did cut out there for a little bit, but you're good.
Yeah, so pretty much for me, it was like taking that shift from being the online PT to then marketing for PTs and actually teaching people marketing. So when I was at 30K a month, Chris offered me obviously an affiliate deal where it's like you can actually be a license holder of the digital marketing school and you can start to actually work alongside Scott and I as a business partner. And I was like, fucking oath, like this was sick. And then obviously my marketing skills were all right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they were pretty decent. So we launched this campaign for this digital marketing cert, which was actually the digital marketing school that Melanie's now joined up and come on board with us and actually went through into our top tier program and fucking crushing it, by the way. So yeah, we linked up. That we launched that ad campaign in March, and by end of financial year for that ad campaign and that actually business launch. So in about 3.5 months, we actually scaled it to 486,000 cash revenue. And then we actually went on and took that business to $1 million cash revenue in 11.5 months. So no sales rev, like I used to count, like cash through the business, cash in bank, which was, yeah, pretty exciting. And that's why obviously Melanie and I are now here, because we've connected through paths similar to each other's backgrounds and now similar to each other's future progression. So sorry to waffle, guys. I talk a lot.
That's so good. And look, I think, again, one of the key things to take away from this is I think too many people get stuck in that rut thinking that, whatever life they have right now is all that they have. This is what I've been given and I don't really know what it looks like to change it. And neither did we. I remember thinking I have no fucking idea. Like, I don't even know who to speak to because I didn't know the amazing people that I know now back then. I didn't have anyone, that was killing it. To reach out to and go, hey, what do I do? But you've got to position yourself, to be able to find those people, right? Like you've got to be able to like think outside the box. Otherwise you will stay exactly where you are. And yeah, I mean, gosh, things have changed. Like I can't remember when it actually came on board with the agency. I think it was maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was about 6 months ago.
7 months ago come on for the first time, and then obviously have come on one-on-one with you guys, recently. And my life's completely changed in that time, like completely changed. And, one of my big goals was to, move to Bribie Island and, for us to be able to hang out at the beach all day. And here I am 6 months later, like I just went and looked at the house yesterday. So it like absolutely crazy turnaround. And, I know when we met, you were doing the $30,000 months and I was like, oh my God, this is where I want to be, and now whatever you've skyrocketed that, which, we're not here to brag. We're here to, show you what's possible if you're willing to think outside the box. So James, what's lined up for you moving forward? What's exciting in your life, apart from us catching up for a beer or two? What's happening moving forward?
A fair bit. Just on the note you said before, I think the keynote for anybody that wants to take away from this and write this down, highlight it, fucking tattoo it across your chest, your forehead. Success is structural, not personal. Like I think that's the biggest thing we all need to take away from like listening to my story, and anyone that follows Mel and listens to her story. Like, fuck, anyone can be successful. Hey, like you don't have to be this godlike symbol of fucking spirituality or personal development. Like, fuck, like, I'll be honest, I still drink. I still do the occasional fucking drug. Like, I'm not even going to lie. Like I get on it. Like, you still smash it with the boys. And like, I'm not going to lie, it hasn't changed who I am. Nothing's changed about me as an individual. Yeah. Nothing's, the only thing I realized was that it's a success structure. And like, if you think that personally, if I still had the identity that I was a fucking 14-year-old kid that just lost his mum and that therefore I was going to become successful like that, then that's bullshit. It's like, I found a success structure, online marketing, like online business. Like if you aren't online, you fucking need to wake up.
Yeah, 100%. You'll miss the boat. I mean, I'd say if you're not online already in some type, way, shape or form, the boat's already starting to leave, like it's something that you've really got understand, you know, and it doesn't have to be network marketing or direct selling. You know, there's so many other avenues. It doesn't have to be digital marketing. I mean, you might find something else that works for you. Obviously, we're over here raving about digital marketing.
Yeah.
You know, the results that it's had, but I know a lot of other people that are doing other things as well.
Something that I heard the other day was anyone that watches this, you know, like the rich aren't getting richer, the poor just believe everything's a scam. And that's what you got to realize, like not everything's a scam that you see online.
Yeah.
And it's like just realizing that fact. So to answer the other question as well, what's in the pipeline?
Yeah.
A lot. So we're going to scale the digital marketing school to 10 mil in the next 2 years. That's the goal. So that's a big one. We're on the run rate for obviously doing 3 to 5 this year. So we're good for that. And for anyone watching, just to do 1 mil to 10 mil isn't fucking just doing 10 times the work. It's a lot of structures, a lot of hiring, a lot of systems. So we're very much in a systems mode at the moment. I've got that business, and then also getting back in with my Herbalife stuff. We've got a system that we're creating for that, you know, which I'm looking to, I guess, break some records, get people doing, you know, digital marketing rather than sliding in everyone's DMs every 5 minutes just to try to get a conversation. And then, I've got a fucking heap actually on the go, but those are the two main ones at the moment, which is good.
That's so exciting. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of things moving, and, you know, watching, I guess, it really got me when I heard what you guys are doing, and obviously I've been able to be a part of watching that growth. You know, anyone that knows me and probably knows you, like we're no bullshit, you know, and we're not the type of people that are a part of something that isn't exactly what we say it is, you know. So there's so many people out there that are skeptical and, oh, you know, but what if this? And it's like, yeah, but if this, then what? If not this, then what? You know. And I know for me, I didn't have a better option. I'd obviously entered into the world of network marketing as well, but you do and can end up still on the treadmill, you know, of constantly, you know, having to get people on board. So learning those skills of digital marketing can actually make growing a business like that 10 times easier. So thank you so much for jumping on. I appreciate your time. You're a busy man, like you said, out there making the millions. But look, I think there's a load of takeaways today, you know, right from, like you said, complete heartbreak and family breakdown to, you know, complete success. And I think your mum would be really proud.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
No problems. And good luck moving forward.
Epic. Sounds good. Thank you.